Hello, viewers and subscriber. Welcome once again my new screencast. This is the screencast is the continuation of my previous screencast about the detailed development. How can you start the REST API or microservice implementations, and those microservice implementation need to be include to the different front-end or GUI UI development frameworks like technology like Angular or React with TypeScript, or Node.js with the Spring JavaScript framework technology. Even though when you have it like REST API, customized REST API for your functionalities, then you can consume those REST API into the different Java-based template engine like Timeleap, FreeMarker, or JSP, even though or Grails technology. This is the idea to give it to you how the your middle layer or your API implementation with the implementation, how you communicate with the different front-end technology. So basically I'm basically in the API developer, like your backend developer, and then I'm not expert in the front-end developer. And then last screencast, and a lot of viewers and subscribers asking me to give it the idea how the integrations, how it look like if you have the REST APIs in defined, and how you call it this REST API to build the front-end technology. That's why I try to give it to you for the very beginner, and even though some years of experience to get it clearly how the two different development stacks come together. That means you prepare your backend, you prepare your REST APIs, and you expose your REST APIs, or you expose the REST API to put it in the cloud, even though in the database, also in the cloud services, and then you put your services into also the cloud, and then call these services into your front-end developments. Doesn't matter which front-end technology you are using. If you have resources for the double resources, means your developer has a more experience, or your company has a more experience, as JavaScript based frameworks, front-end development frameworks, or Java based front-end development frameworks, or even though in the Grails or GUI based front-end development frameworks. That's every front-end development. I did already these examples into my channels. If you go to there, UVSoftGroups, and there's a many playlist. You can go there, and so that's one of the playlist. You can, if you go to the playlist, you have a lot of policy. You have the REST point endpoints, and you have the map functionalities. Even though you have like Angular TypeScript, this is the one of the application I am here. I try to describe with you how it is. It's built in the front end, only the front end technology, and how the REST APIs, and how the REST API is defined. I will talk to detail about every step, how is it build the REST APIs, and even though the test this REST API in the server side, and maybe JUnit test, and even though in the client side the Postman test. That's how everything is there. I already did it this time. The buildings, all the test cases, and then we can talk to each of the part of the communications or development. This is the idea. So that's why the last screencast, that a lot of viewers and stuff asking me to give it to them a really clear idea how it works all together as a full stack developer. That means for the beginner it is hard to understand this enterprise application, but I try to come up really closely how can the beginner, even though some years of experience, people can get it clearly how the development is done as a professional life or as an enterprise application. That was the idea for those screencasts all together to play together. That's one of the special part for this screencast. Like like the geo functionalities. That a lot of developers, they have no experience about the GIS, geographic information systems, and I try to come up also together to how can they integrate the maps or geo functionality with the existing enabled applications. Nowadays, any application they need geo functionality. It doesn't matter is it eBay, PayPal, or Google's. Everywhere is a maps. That doesn't matter. Is a bank services. They try to look for the possibilities to search the customer, consumer, or to see that the services where the service is distributed. That's why the geo functionality is a really critical part of the any industries that you need to be take care. I think you can get really clear pictures. Let's have a talk to the one of the example that I did here, the Angular based. Okay, no, I didn't hear. So we have the Angular TypeScript based the development. Already I did the 45 videos with a completely Angular and TypeScript and web and this is the front-end technology. And then even though you have some other, this is the time-lapse and Spring Boot based and the front-end technology, you can look for this one. This is all the REST APIs. So even though I did define these REST APIs with different databases, non-SQL databases, Elasticsearch, Gamefire, and Cassandra, and MySQL and MongoDB, all are covered. So you can publish your REST APIs, and then you can consume this REST API. It doesn't matter which front-end technology you are, or your company has expertise, or even though your client requirements, which technology you need to build your applications. And it doesn't matter if you have the REST APIs, and doesn't matter which technology you are. It doesn't matter. So it's here, see all the REST points and what I already defined some examples, and you can take a look at it. How can you define the different backend servers, and how can you define your REST APIs, expose the REST API, and call this REST API. For the current screencast, I'm now only going to PostGIS and PostGIS database as a backend server, and publish these REST APIs to consume them from different technologies. So it's a JSP example. You can look for that. There are many examples. This is one of the examples from the Grails Groovy technology, and then this is a free marker example. This you can look for these ones. Everything is there. So and even though you can, how can you microservice registration and admin, and then even though in the cloud and those things, you can look for these channels. Let's have a look. What the idea for this these two different screencast. So screencast number 34.1 up to 3045, it was about how can you build your Angular based front-end technology, Angular TypeScript with Node.js, and even though PrimeNG from the Google, you can build very quickly the front-end. And this is one of the front-end, and then this is the idea, how can you communicate your front-end technology. This is one of the really critical part. So that means every button or every interactions, you have some REST API calls. That's why I'm trying to build this REST API with you all together, how it works. That means we define our front-end technology, we didn't define our endpoints definitions. That's why I'm trying to build one screencast for explaining how the front-end you can build different front-end technology. That doesn't matter is JavaScript based or Java based or Groovy based, doesn't matter. But in the backend server, it doesn't matter API server. That's why I'm trying to make two different REST APIs. This REST API for the user registrations. I already talk about detailed structure about this project 36.30.17. I already talk about it, but I will go to the one by one. Every step I will discuss with you. And this is one of the microservice applications, and this is the one of the applications for your REST part of the plots, buildings, and floor and units. Just look for the previous screencast, and you get the clear idea of what I mean. So here, so you see the one of the address registrations, registration actions. It has a new. You can create a new, and you can have edit and delete, and you have have the save and ups reset your button and cancel, and even though you can record it, your coordinates points, the polygons, and this is the things you can restore these points, and then you can store this coordinate point into the here and put it into your microservice level. So microservice means, I mean, here if you, this is the one of the example that I can explain you. This is the address, so address objects, you see that in the GUI. And this is the address registration access. It has all the attributes and it has a map coordinates points. If I go to my implementations, it has address and it has information, address ID, and then geometry information. So if I go there, it has geometry information.